You are listening to Off Your Rocker, a SeniorVu podcast with Billy Daniels and Melissa Smith of SeniorVu. Thanks for tuning in.
Yes.
Aren't you excited? We have
I'm very excited.
It's very fun. Well, we're going to do something a little differently today. Normally, Billy and I are just bantering back and forth, or we have a guest in here and we're asking questions. Today, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, if you will, about email marketing, because
I'm very nervous.
Don't be.
I'm so nervous.
I'm going to ask some personal questions.
Can
I'll
we
just tell you that right now?
Before we get into the questions, can we say something to our subscribers of, if you like what we're doing, be sure to like our podcast on any podcast platform, leave us a review, subscribe to it, and share it on social media.
Said just like the VP of digital marketing.
Yeah, well, we got to spread the word. We're doing great things in here.
I know we are.
Yeah.
So this is fun. This is fun. So today we want to really drill down into email marketing.
Right. What it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I'd like to start there, if that's okay. What is it and why do we need it, Billy?
Well, email marketing is just an aspect of your digital marketing strategy. It's electronic mail. I'm sure everyone knows what that stands for, but maybe they don't. So email is electronic mail. And it's a form of communicating to where you can send out messages either automatically or through, different various email providers, or through software programs like Outlook, where you can communicate effectively directly to the consumer. So if someone engages with you, you're going to engage back. I mean, we use email internally a lot, but we use it externally a lot, and then we communicate everything through our email platform within SeniorVu for prospects with our B2B sales. But we really use it effectively with our B2C, with our clients, of getting their message out, their brand out to their prospects that are engaging with their brand through either the contact center or through paid campaigns or organic emails, or organic search. I'm sorry, not emails. So,
and I know we're going to talk about automating that in a little bit, because I think what immediately came to mind is, we know about sending one-off emails, but to send out email as a campaign to a group of individuals
as a brand
is really
strategy.
what we're doing and talking about here today.
As a strategy in your marketing strategy, or just your branding strategy. And I think what you're asking is, why is it important?
Yeah.
Okay. I think it goes back to, and people talk about the fact that email is going away. It's not going away. It's not going to go away. It's still going to be, it's today and will be for a very long time the number one way to effectively communicate your message. We may be seeing some of the messenger type apps getting up in there, Facebook being able to have the ability to send ads through that, but email is still the best way to communicate what you want to say at the right time, the right message to the consumer. It's also the biggest thing that I think aside from social media is you own your list, and you are going to grow your own list independently of your website. And that is probably the biggest advice I could give, is when you're getting started with email marketing, is grow your list organically. There's ways that you can purchase these lists, but I have never seen that actually be successful in terms of buying leads, in terms of getting them to engage. Typically, those are people who are, you're going to get into spam traps at that point. And so don't buy list, grow your list organically through people visiting your website. So try to entice them to engage with you.
Okay, so people visiting your website is the best way, or people you're doing business with, which is those you assume are visiting your website.
Yeah.
Is there any other way to build that list?
Absolutely, through the social media channels. I mean, we do lead form ads on Facebook, and you can just add a lead form to any of your posts or on your Facebook page. You can add links in your Instagram profile if you want to send directly to a newsletter sign up or some sort of sign up. You just need to get the message out there that you have an email, but you have to have something worth saying. So it's one thing you can just collect emails if you want to and not send anything. You're not going to hurt anything, but that's going to damage your reputation.
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 Reputation. Sorry.
But I think Yeah, owning your list, growing it organically, whether that's through your website or through social media channels, is going to be the best way to do that. But you have to attract them in a good way. So.
But don't you need to kind of have a thought process too about who is on that list or how long that list? Because I know at SeniorVu we've got different lists because
list management.
Depending upon the message that or what we're trying to say to a particular group, because what we might want to say to the sales team in the community is different than what we might want to say to the owner of the company.
Right, absolutely. So being able to collect, you see this all the time in the B2B world where you get asked, what's your title when you're filling out something? And that's what they're doing. They're creating a different list to have a different message sent out to a different person because that message is going to change. The best case in probably senior, or the best example in senior living, is the adult child versus the senior. Vastly different messages that could be sent out. And you got to be careful because you're not asking their age by any means, but you can ask, who are you looking for? And I'm looking for my parents. Well, then that's the adult child, or I'm looking for a loved one. And then maybe you can progressively profile that person through automation by releasing additional emails that could, and progressively profile means collecting additional data points that you could then segment your list further on what that message could be. So.
Well, and with more and more seniors getting online,
yeah,
I think collecting that information, you do have to really be kind of careful because I mean, someone's 80 and they receive an email where you're talking to an adult child could be offensive.
Yeah, very, very true. And there's things that you do need to do. They have to take explicit consent on signing up for your emails. I mean, you're not going to get in yourself with a CAM spam law. You're probably not going to get in trouble with anything, but you need to have them opt in to your email campaigns. You don't want to just start blasting out to people. You want them to opt in so that they feel like I signed up for something.
Well, and the email list, I mean, that we need to do a whole podcast on just reputation management, but deliverability and all of that becomes an issue if you're not getting them to opt in, right?
Right. So that is a great comment right there, because that's another aspect of list management. Is you asked about the different segments that you could create. Well, you want to create an inactive subscriber list. So someone that hasn't opened up an email in a very long time, you want to start removing them from your normal cadence. So let's just hypothetically say we're sending out a bi-weekly or bi-monthly newsletter. So every other week we're sending out something. Well, if we keep pinging those people who are never opening those emails, or we're getting soft bounces, which then equate to a hard bounce. Soft bounce is that their email box might be full. And typically with email providers, you get 3 soft bounce that equal into a hard bounce. And that hurts your deliverability. So you want to monitor that from a standpoint of who is bouncing, why are they bouncing, and then segment them into different lists that you would send less frequently to. So you still want to send to them, but you might go, instead of every other week email them, you might go every 3 months.
Gotcha.
And you just continue to monitor it. It works really well in terms of, say you're having a deliverability problem where you're only getting 90% of your emails delivered into the inbox, not an open, into the inbox. You can really help yourself by just looking at where your email is going and what is happening. Okay. So it's a simple fix. Yes, it takes time, and yes, it is. It's not always manual, but going in and drilling into some of these things of why this is happening, creating the different segments is truly important. And there's different providers that do it differently in terms of being able to set filters to maybe push somebody to a list like this, like an inactive subscriber list. But that's a great way to help yourself in terms of email marketing.
We're talking about these forms that people fill out online.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Getting people to come to your website, capturing their information, but you gotta have a way to get them there. So
right.
I think they're called lead magnets.
Yeah, that's a term. Yeah, that's definitely a term. And what you're talking about is offering something up to the consumer of why would they give their personal information to you? Right. What are you gonna give them in exchange? And there's many different forms of doing this. Typically, you're going to see something like along an ebook or a guide that maybe has a checklist, so to speak. a webinar that you might do. These are things that might be a little harder for a community to do in senior living, but that kind of tugs at my heartstrings a little bit, because I think that that's where we need to see some of these communities step up. Is we're allowing, and when I say we're allowing, I mean the industry, senior living industry is allowing these large aggregators to dominate this side of the industry, or this side of the communications and marketing. Is they're able to, with their big budgets, produce ebooks, webinars, guides that are helpful. I'm not denying it, but they're not the ones having the conversations with the adult children, or they're having some conversations. I'm not saying they're not having any, but they're not having the face-to-face conversations with these people, and they're not with them every day. We need the EDs and the nurses at these communities to help your company produce something that is of value to these adult children. I can't think of any better source for it to come from.
Right.
So,
well, and we understand how difficult that is for those communities because of time and dollars and all of those kinds of things. But yeah, it makes it feels unfair. Yeah. Really.
Yeah. It's David versus Goliath in some ways. It
is.
A community in now I'm going to say a community in a rural county or out nowhere near a metro area is probably doesn't even need to do any of these things, because anyone around that community knows
they are.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where,
but flip it in a maybe a smaller town in the United States, in Omaha, Nebraska or something, that they have the ability, that's a large enough population that they have enough people in their community that they could totally start to develop some of these guides, or how to have, I think the biggest thing is how to have these discussions with your parents, move them out of the denial stage, and just, start to advocate that this is an option. And we talked about this on our first episode of the stigma that senior living has. And I use the naughty word again, nursing home, of how I grew up with it.
Sure. I think we all did.
Yeah. And that's what we have. That's part of this thing, is communicating the fact that there are many more care levels offered and services at these communities that people just don't know about because they haven't educated themselves. But that's really the industry's fault. We haven't educated them.
Mm-hmm. No, yes, they are. It's evolving quite extensively in terms of the options that are out there based on level of care. But even with, acute levels of care, there's some amazing communities that are out there as well. Mm-hmm. Okay, where did I want to go with this? Here's where I want to go with that. Mm-hmm. Is that it's the form that we put out there. And there's, I know 50 million articles about what should your form look like?
How many
fields? Yeah. What are the ones you should require? And all of that. And so what's your take on that, Billy?
Obviously fewer fields is better. It's more likely to convert the less information you are gathering. And
what are the key ones? Are you going to...
Email address is the best. That if you're going to get one, I would honestly, I think you need a name, a first or a last name with something, obviously probably a first name more than anything, and an email address at a minimum. I would get that. And I'm talking in the context of senior living. If we were in a different industry, the recommendation would be different. But if you're just trying to collect email addresses, I think first name and an email address, because that can get you off and running. You're collecting a touch point, you're a way to connect with this person, and then you can start to provide value through either emailing them monthly, emailing them weekly. But I think more importantly is, regardless of how many fields you have on your form, obviously don't put like 27 on there, but if you get to the, first name, last name, email address, phone number, who are you looking for, and stuff like that. And you might have different forms for different reasons. So your email newsletter, let's say, could just be first name, last name, email address, or it could just be first name, email address. And then you can progressively profile that person through your messaging campaigns. So you can send out a monthly email of, tell us why you engage with us in the first place. Was it because you have a loved one who is approaching the age of that they need care? And then lo and behold, you start to gather these little things that you can segment your message further down the marketing campaigns.
I'm wondering about, though, that the regular old snail mail address. I know we're talking about email marketing,
right? Mm-hmm.
But the reality is that some seniors, number one, are going to be reluctant to give their email address if they have one.
Right.
And more do.
Right.
I was just looking here to try to find that stat. Do you know it off the top of your head as to how
many have an email address?
Yeah.
No, I don't have, I have it off the top of
It's like, it's going up and up and up.
Well, that's we talked about, you mentioned at the beginning, maybe it wasn't the beginning, but the first few minutes of it, that the number of seniors online is increasing. And that
exponentially every year. You're like, what?
Yeah. And I was even going to say, not just that they're going online, but it's the devices that they're using.
Yes.
So more and more are
iPads. They love iPads.
iPads or a mobile device that has internet access to it. That number is just growing leaps and bounds year over year. So in terms of people having internet access in the United States.
I'm sorry. And we know that email marketing is one way to reach out to them, and it's probably the least expensive way, because direct mail is expensive.
Very expensive.
It's expensive.
Very expensive.
And so this is a way where communities can save money.
Right.
By still staying in front of their potential, their prospects, their future residents, through digital marketing.
So I think there, and maybe what you're getting towards is what are some providers that and what can they do is like, what are some, and so the most, Constant Contact is one, MailChimp is one, HubSpot, you can do it through HubSpot, and
your head starts spinning, like, which one do I choose?
And I think that's where SeniorVu comes in really, really well, is we're out of the box where we can actually have the emails ready to go from the onboarding process. It will be, not today, it's not a do-it-yourself platform, but we have the templates ready to go. We just need to work with the messaging, and we can customize the templates and have them ready to go in days. That's not the case when you go out and do this on yourself. But what I'm getting at is you can typically, these providers have some sort of free trial aspect to it. It's obviously limited in the functions and features that you might have, but you would still have the ability to send emails. If you're not, I would be shocked if there's a large amount of senior living communities that aren't sending emails. I think the bigger question is how do they send emails?
Exactly.
And that is, we need to automate it is one thing, but integration, I think that's where find a provider or someone that already integrates with your CRM, so that when these leads are progressing through different stages of your buyer cycle or your sales cycle, that your messaging is being triggered out. So it's integrating with the email platform and your CRM.
A couple of thoughts. One is the do-it-yourself element that you mentioned.
Right.
And I know that we at SeniorVu are getting there, but honestly, I keep thinking about putting myself in that community and how crazy busy that is.
Right.
How nice to be able to turn to somebody and go,
I want to change this.
Please, please
help
do that for me. Can you? Because my life is too crazy busy.
Right.
And that's what we're able to do here.
Yeah.
And
we code in-house. We have developers in-house.
Yeah.
We can customize templates very easily. It's not a difficult process.
Their branding.
Yeah, it's their branding. Yeah.
It's not our branding.
Their images, their logo, everything. It's not a SeniorVu branded email by far. By any means. But yeah, the do-it-yourself thing is, I think that can be tricky. You want to be able to do it, but at the same time, you don't, because it's time consuming. Who has time at these communities? At the communities now. There's a next level up of the company might have somebody that can do it. Absolutely. But these people at the communities, they can't go in there and use the WYSIWYG, which WYSIWYG is what you see is what you get. And it's like a drag and drop type aspect of it. Everyone has seen this, where if you've built anything on a WordPress type site, or if you've used any sort of email platform anyways, you can drag an image into it. That's a WYSIWYG.
I like the name.
It's a great name. Right?
WYSIWYG.
Yeah. When I first got into email marketing, I used to refer to, when I first got into digital marketing, I would go to these meetings and I just felt like I was like in an acronym meeting because I have to write everything down because I was like, what are they SEO, SEM, WYSIWYG? How do you spell WYSIWYG? So, and then I started to learn, but it was such a challenge at first to be like, what are they talking about?
I know there is. It's a whole new language. Okay, going back to the CRM and the integration. You touched on that a little bit. So help our listeners understand that piece of it and
scenario.
Yeah, but also who do we integrate with?
We integrate with Sherpa, Inquire. Oh my gosh.
Do we integrate with everybody?
Yeah, majority of them
really?
do. Yeah, we're an API-based platform,
okay.
So the integration process is pretty simple. As long as you have an open API, we can push information to and from. The bi-directional is a little more challenging because it's not as open typically with all CRMs, but we do have bi-directional integrations with most of our CRM partners right now. So
I don't know what that means. I'll look it up.
Yeah. It just means information flows both ways.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
yes,
Okay.
Yeah.
Goes back and forth.
Right. So,
Gotcha.
and we have a couple of clients that have their own CRMs that makes it super easy because we can work with their developers and our in-house developers can work with them directly so that information is being passed accurately. But to go back to your original question of why is integration so important with your CRM, I think the best way to probably explain it is through a scenario of, let's say, someone signs up for your email marketing campaigns and newsletter. You get their first name and you get their email address, and then lo and behold, you have a conversation with them. They call into the community and you ask, well, can I email you? I'd like to email you something. And you take that email address. And if you've done what you need to do at your community, that email address is already going to exist in your CRM. And you're just going to go ahead and insert the additional pieces of information that you're missing. But you're going to move that person, let's say a status, from a contact attempted status or a email newsletter status type thing. And with having an integration with a CRM to a marketing automation platform or an email platform, as soon as that conversation is had and they change that status of that person to had a conversation, and I don't know what the status would be at any given community. For us internally, it's a contacted status. That triggers over to the email marketing platform to send a message and send them down a different scenario of messages. So day 0 gets a message that, thanks for stopping by the community. We loved talking to you. We'd love to continue this conversation at your convenience. Click here to schedule a time to talk with us again. Send them to a page. Well, let's say you have another conversation with them again, and they're like, I'd like to set up a tour and bring, let's say it's an adult child. Well, then you're going to want to trigger out something that says your tour time is at such and such time, but that's not going to happen until that status has been changed. So we're flirting with marketing automation here a little bit with email marketing, but email marketing is the vessel that the message is going through, and it's probably the most widely used or highly converting. So they're expecting that message at this time. If you didn't communicate to them, your reputation from their mindset is tarnished a little bit of, I talked to them and I set up a tour, but they didn't tell me that or confirm that tour date was right. I mean, right. I just think of the Amazon worlds, the e-commerce worlds, which is where I came from. I didn't come from Amazon. That sounded weird, but I came from the e-commerce industry, and that's where it is. It's all transaction-based emails of this occurred, do this. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about you've effectively communicated, or had a meaningful conversation with somebody. Why would you just leave them hanging? So right. I've always treated email, even personally, I've never enjoyed the fact that if I send someone an email and I don't hear back from them, say if I've asked them a question or, hey, can you take care of this? And they don't respond, but they took care of it. I always think of email marketing as treated as if you're still standing face to face.
Nice.
Because I would never tell you, You wouldn't ask me a question and then I wouldn't just turn around and walk away.
Right.
Did he do it? Or
does that mean yes?
He
No.
blinked his eyes. Does yes, one blink mean yes? Two blinks no?
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, that is right. That's a really good way to think about that, Billy.
Be personable, but not creepy. Don't be creepy. We saw that you stopped by the community at 10 a.m. and we would no, that's weird.
We loved your pink sweater.
Yes, your Navy car needs a wash.
Yeah, totally. That would be, I know. Talk about freaking out a demographic.
Yeah, don't be a Big Brother.
Freak out anybody.
Yeah, don't be Big Brother freak out.
No,
That's the tricky part.
Well, and I wanted to say about the marketing automation, we're not going on a deep dive here because we have another podcast with our CEO, Tim Donnelly, who is the king of marketing automation.
Yeah.
And we're going to, then that's a place that I can send our listeners to go look at that podcast.
I think
listen to that
is
podcast.
This is a great segue into it.
Yeah, it is. It's a great one there. But automation is kind of the key.
Right.
And that's a huge piece of what we do here. Right. And so we want to have
automation through integration. That's what I would say is the key. So automating it through an integration, because it's one thing to automate it, but what if that person, the status, what I'm meaning by that is...
Thank you. Did you look at it, see that?
No, you didn't look confused at all. Yeah. No, what I mean by that is your email marketing platform is typically separate from your CRM. What we've talked about is if you're having calls, you're not all the communication is single threaded through email marketing. So you need to make sure that it's integrated with whatever you're using to track your leads. So your lead management platform.
Okay.
And that way that journey is consistent, or the messaging is consistent with the journey that they're going through, or the consumer is experiencing.
So what have I not asked about email marketing that I'm not smart enough to know that I haven't asked that we need to talk about?
I'm just reviewing my notes. Well, I think one of the things we touched on the lead magnet type stuff, but I think that's an area of an untapped. I mean, we talked about the nurses and
so
getting
what
the lead aggregators out of the way, getting them to stop dominating this organic search world, and organic meaning that they're taking up the first page on Google and Bing. That, when someone goes to search with how much does senior living cost, or how much does assisted living cost, or the long-term words, the long-tail keywords that people are searching now of how to have a conversation with my parents about senior living.
The keys away.
Is that's where I think there could be some success on the community level, specifically if you can get your SEO, search engine optimization, on point for your local area. You can really dominate that by providing these resources. So in that, how does that pertain to email marketing? Well, I think you have to make stuff that is enticing. And what I mean is it is helpful, and it can be easily consumed. It doesn't need to be a 20-page document about how to have a conversation with your parents. Mm-hmm. It needs to be easily consumed so that they can sit down and look at it online, or send it in an email. Ask for them to let us email it to you, and so then you're gating this content and saying, let us send you 5 tips of how to start having that conversation, or what are the early signs of dementia, or what are the early signs of when do I need to start even having that conversation, and giving information that at the community, you being the people in the industry at the community level, of how to have that conversation, because they're the best people at this. They're the most qualified.
They are.
So.
And to have that fresh information coming onto their website, and all is what's going to help too. It can't be like, put one article out there and it's 3 years old. Right.
Yeah, update it. Yeah, I think maybe the content truly doesn't change. I don't think you need to reinvent the wheel every time. That conversation, yes, there might, the 2017 version could be very, very similar to the 2019 or 2020 version, but maybe there's some subtle tweaks of what you've learned over the years. And a 3-year time period is very long. And there's things that I know we've learned internally that we would do differently with aspects of our marketing. And that's what you just need to look at this is let's not sit down and rewrite this whole guide. Let's just add the aspects of what we've learned, or maybe it's not as relevant. And that's the thing, is make sure your messages are relevant.
They're still relevant.
The content is easily consumed, is relevant, and they can take action with it. So don't provide them with a guide that doesn't give them any sort of action to come back to you.
Right. And also having the conversation on your website depends upon, or having those articles on the website depends upon who your audience is.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're assisted living only,
right,
those are different articles than if you're independent living only.
Right. Or memory care only.
Or memory care only. So keep that in mind as well. To keep it with your target audience.
Right message, right time, right person. So that's you can't go away from that. As much as we continue to say that and try to pound it into people's heads, it's still true. It's the old marketing adage. So
what do you think is the biggest misconception around email marketing when you're talking to clients, particularly for the first time, about some of this? What are some of the aha moments that occur when you're having those conversations?
The biggest aha moment for me that I have seen so far in being in the senior living industry is no one is doing a great job of collecting email addresses. And that is the biggest no-no of do something to collect email addresses, whether that's at the walk-in level. I mean, not having a way to contact the people that are stopping at your community again just seems, I don't know how that's not being something that's addressed as an urgent matter all across this whole industry. It's tough though. I get it. And I think you have to find some piece of technology that allows that to be easier, because having people write something down and you have to manually enter that into your CRM or lead management tool is not effective. How many times are you going to misread that email address and then you don't have a way to contact that person, and then that person's left hanging of, gosh, I visited that community and I've never heard back from them. Yeah. And so the biggest aha moment from my standpoint, and that's probably not exactly what you were asking me, but that has been the biggest. What I was asking you. Okay, that's the biggest eye-opening thing I've seen. Is
that surprised you?
Yeah, and I would add on top of that the volume of, if they are collecting email addresses, the number of leads that do not have an email address. So they've gone to enter first name, last name, phone number, but they don't have an email address. Now, some of this is the generation that you're targeting, is they don't want to give up that information. Totally get it. But that's where we have to get creative as marketers to, how can we get that email address? Of, don't bombard them and make them feel secure with, we're not going to spam you. We just want to be able to reach out to you and and be a helping hand.
Well, send you information about an event, or help you with your move by sending a guide about how to move, or whatever. You're absolutely right. Well, we're so used to giving our email addresses anymore.
Right.
And granted, that generation might be a little more reluctant, but I can guarantee you, when mom goes shopping at Nordstrom's, or Nordstrom, I don't think there's an S on the end, that she gives them that email address so that she'll get the specials.
Yeah, there's an incentive.
Yeah.
And that's
another thing. I guess you just find incentives for them to give it to you.
And that's hard. How do you? That's one that we can probably have an hour-long discussion about. Of how can you incentivize these people to give your email address, or give their, it's not your email address, their email address to you, because we're not discounting the care. We're not, what can we be doing? That, is it an upgrade? Is it a service that can be included? Is it a free month, lunch. Free first month, something, or lunch or something, or a laundry. So I don't know that. And that's where I need to spend some more time doing research on how could we incentivize. It was easy in the e-commerce world. It was a discount, or it was, it was a gift card with your purchase and stuff like that. And maybe that's what it is creating a partnership with local businesses that entice people to say, you come in and tour with us, which you don't want to just increase your tour volume for the sake of increasing you want to have quality tours.
Sure.
But could you offer somebody who is also a business in your local area to combine efforts of, if it's a restaurant or something? I'm just thinking, or
a financial institution, because,
or
financial
flowers.
Planning.
Or
flowers. That's great. So thinking of things that would be of interest to see.
I always think of flowers when I think of incentivizing people, but when I was in Chicago and in the golf industry, every Valentine's Day, the last person on the golf course we gave 2 dozen roses to to take it home to their wife. So that they could,
that's so nice.
So it would make up. Yeah, but it was just to make up so their wife would feel good that they, oh, you thought of me. Oh. No, I played golf. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's very clever. Very clever.
Yeah.
No, this has been terrific.
It's been really good.
It has. And it's a lot of great information. And I personally appreciate how passionate you and your team are about figuring out how we can deliver a better experience for the communities that we work with.
We're not done yet.
No.
We have more, tricks up our sleeves to create those those right messages for the consumers at these communities. Is we can tailor these messages further through our platform. So.
And I cannot encourage you enough to go over and listen to the podcast with Tim Donnelly about marketing automation.
Yes.
Because we really have it figured out, I believe. And granted, I'm tooting our own horn over here, but we really do. And specifically for this industry and understanding the years and years of experience that we have in that space and how we have figured out how to do this is pretty special.
Not just our experience, but the industry experts we have that are just an arm's length away that we can as a resource of. We're smart enough to know that we don't know everything.
Right, but we surround ourselves with smarter
very smart
people.
Yes. Specifically in terms of what's worked in other industries and how can that be applied to the senior living industry. That's what we're trying to do.
Yes. Benefit the senior living community. Billy, thank you for educating us today.
Of course, this was great.
It was very good. And do you want to say it or you want me to?
You say it.
Okay. You are listening to Off Your Rocker, a SeniorVu podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.